few briefs on No Child Left Behind. What is No Child Left Behind? Since the No Child Left Behind law took effect in 2002, it has swept the impact in United Public Schools and classrooms. It affects students, what they're taught and how the tests that they take are being presented to them, and training for the teachers, and the way the money is spent for education. Coming at a time of world public concerns about the state of education, the No Child Left Behind legislation set in place requirements that reach to virtually every public school in America. It expanded to the federal role in education and took particular aim at improving the educational lot of disadvantaged students. So this helped all the students in the 4 schools that weren't getting the right amount of education to move on, and they were failing, and the teachers weren't being presented with the right process for them to learn how to teach the students. My recommendations on No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind, to me, is a great investment to education. I know that this has taken a big toll in my high school, and we have overcome low test scores and now have less students failing because of the outstanding help of the teachers that the government has helped provide to the school. We had these little tablets called Neos that helped with math scores, and we had people come in to help bring up the reading levels for students in the classrooms of all ages. The history, annual testing by 2005-2006 school year, states were required to begin testing students in grade 8 through 3 on math and reading. By 2007-8, they had test students in science at least once in elementary, middle school, and high school. And the test had been aligned with the state academic standards. Like I said, we had to take they were called star reading tests, and you had to take one every month. If you didn't improve, you had to go, and the state had a lady come in and help improve the reading scores of the students that were too low, and the math scores of the students that were too low. States were required to bring all students up to the proficient level on state tests by 2013-14 school year. If the school received federal title funding, failed to meet target 2 years in a row, it would provide technical assistance, and students would be offered a choice of other public schools to attend. So if you didn't meet the required standards for that school, the state would offer you an open enrollment to another school that standards were low enough for you to fit into. Students in school that failed to make adequate progress in 3 years in a row also offered supplemental education service, including private tutoring. So they gave private tutoring to students that could not, no matter what school district they were in. For continued failures, the school would be subject to outside corrective measures, including possible government change. Report cards started in 2002 and 2003 school year. States were required to furnish annual report cards showing the range of information, including students' achievement data broken down by subgroups and information of the performance of high school districts. Districts must provide similar report cards showing school-by-school data. So these report cards showed your parents where you were doing really struggling in each group. So math, if you weren't doing good in addition or subtraction or multiplication. The teacher qualifications. By the end of 2005-06 school year, every teacher in core content areas working in a public school had to be highly qualified in each subject he or she taught. Under the law, highly qualified generally meant that a teacher was certified to demonstrate proficient in his or her subject matter. These teachers had to be able to pass their own tests to be able to teach these subjects. In the 2003 school year, all teachers hired with federal title money had to be highly qualified. By the end of the 2005 school year, all hired in title and money must have completed at least 2 years of college. So these teachers that were hired had at least completed 2 years of college. Reading First, the Act created a new competitive grant program called Reading First, funded $1.02 billion in 2004 to help states and districts set up a scientific research base. Reading programs for children in kindergarten through 3rd grade. A smaller early reading program had sought to help states better prepare 3 to 5 year olds. So this was helping them prepare to go into kindergarten. which some kids struggled with reading. A lot of kids didn't know how to read by the time they got to first grade and didn't know how to add and subtract. Funding changes. No Child Left Behind Act was expected to be better target resource to school districts with high concentrations of poor children. The law also includes provisions intended to give states and districts greater flexibility in how they spent a portion of their federal elements. In conclusion to this argument, if there was not for No Child Left Behind Act, we would have many more schools that can't afford to give their students the education they need. When in research, it would result to what they will have lower test scores and less students making it through high school and going forth to college. If we get rid of this act, our schools will suffer and our children will suffer as well. I think that's a big important thing. Education is important to everybody. That education matters. And you can go somewhere but not where you would like to go.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes.
Is there anything to indicate that since No Child Left Behind has gone into place, that students do better at the next level, i.e. college?
Like with the test scores from different schools have gone up, like the ACT test scores.
But that doesn't tell me that they've done better at college.
Oh, in college, I don't know.
All the ACT and the SAT, those are college entrance exams. You gotta pass those to get in.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be doing a better job to prepare you for that. But have they really? I mean, the SAT scores, have they really gone up? No, they haven't. They've actually gone down because the SAT changed. How many of you guys just took the SAT recently? Most of you. How many of you guys took ACT? The SAT added a writing requirement. So it falls outside of the normal standardized tests that they give. They added a writing requirement. Since the addition of the writing requirement, which came in after No Child Left Behind, scores on the SAT are actually down as a result because students aren't writing as well. The writing scores are very low. So you need to, you need, if you're gonna say that the policy is actually improved all of these things, one, you need more numbers. You need before and after, okay? What were these scores before? What are these scores since, okay? Second issue though is, who determines proficient? You use that in a couple of different places. Proficient as far as teachers, proficient as far as students that are, the standards. Who determines the standards?
The government has standards for each.
Okay, so then the
Children.
standards are addressed at a state level. Okay, I would add something in your brief on that.
Okay.
Maybe instead of doing a nationwide view of No Child Left Behind, scroll it or scan it down to Ohio.
Okay.
Look at Ohio, who determines the standards for proficiency within the state of Ohio? And then have those been met? Or how successfully have schools been at meeting those proficient goals? Okay, that would be one recommendation. The other thing is, if this has been so successful, okay, which is essentially what you're saying, why is it that every single state education association, i.e. Ohio Education Association, whatever, why is it every single one of them's come out against it, and the National Education Association has also come out against it? I mean, there's not a single teachers union out there that supports No Child Left Behind. That's what all those groups are. More importantly, the current president, when he ran, that was one of his issues, was to undo and get rid of No Child Left Behind. He's made no changes to it, but if it's so successful, why is it everybody wants to get rid of it? Pardon?
I think it's the money issue.
You think it's the money issue? Okay. But there's the problem. You think it is. You need to find that out. What is it? What are the issues that these organizations have with that? Okay. On another issue entirely, since the federal government has gotten more and more involved in education, okay, scores are actually down. The bottom line is, from when I graduated in high school, or from high school, to now, scores in math, science, reading comprehension, those have gone down almost every single year from the mid-1980s to now, even though we've spent almost twice as much on per student education as we did then. And so you gotta kind of, figure out some of those things, okay? What is the reason behind it? The bottom line is no policy out there is perfect. And that's essentially what you've shown, what you're trying to show here is that, hey, this is a great program and here's why, no recommendations for changes or anything like that. Yet there's too many groups that are opposed to it. So you gotta kind of pull those blinders off and dig into that a little bit, okay? Any other questions?